Hi guys, today I'm going to talk to you about Elixir efficiency. Using an example, I'm going to show you why you should take into account both on-the-field advantages and in-hand advantages. Alright, so let's get into a game sim analysis. The game starts like most games do with both players building up to 10 Elixir. The reason most people do this is to ensure that whatever troops they play can be backed up by more troops so they don't just die to the tower one by one. It's also good to save some Elixir for defending if they decide to rush or push down the opposite lane. So after stalling on 10 Elixir for a few seconds, I decide to make the first move and play my knight. That puts me 3 Elixir down. Here comes his first mistake. He waits a few seconds deciding what to do before putting the mini-P.E.K.K.A down in the other lane, maybe trying to rush the tower with it. The mini-P.E.K.K.A costs 4 Elixir, giving me a 1 Elixir advantage in my hand. However, because he waited so long to put it down, he actually lost another 2 Elixir. Look at my Elixir bar. It's almost maxed out at 10, meaning that mini-P.E.K.K.A cost him 6 Elixir in total, giving me a 3 Elixir advantage in my hand instead of what should have been a 1. Okay, so I'll slow the next bit down so you can see what's going on. To counter the mini-P.E.K.K.A, I decide to play the goblins in the middle to lure it in, and a musketeer by my tower. And while this cost me 6 Elixir compared to his 4, or 6 in this game due to his delayed placement, the aim here is to have the musketeer alive afterwards to create a counter push. So I then counters my musketeer with a Valkyrie, while I send the giant down the other lane with my knight. Alright, so I'll just pause it here a second while we look at what's happening in each lane. Down the left lane, he's played 8 Elixir worth of cards, costing him 10 Elixir due to his delay at the beginning, and I countered it with 6 Elixir, putting the left lane at a +4 advantage for me. Now onto the right lane, I've got 8 Elixir of cards down compared to his 5, which means that if his 5 Elixir spent on defensive troops wipes out my 8, I'd be at a -3 Elixir advantage in this lane, so that'd nearly cancel out my other lane advantage. Unfortunately for him, my knight is strong enough to take out the witch alone, which forces him to play his skeleton army, costing him another 4 Elixir. So that means he's now spent 9 Elixir defending my 8 Elixir push. So I now have a +4 advantage from the left lane, and a +1 advantage from the right lane, putting my total Elixir advantage at 5. So I managed to get about 700 damage onto the tower, which isn't too bad. And now while my Elixir advantage in my hand is 5, he's actually got the Elixir advantage in terms of cards on the field, with a healthy witch and the majority of the skeleton army coming towards my tower. That's 9 Elixir worth of troops coming towards me, and I've got to counter it with the least Elixir possible in order to keep my advantage. Initially I considered the fireball as a counterplay. It had cost me 4 Elixir, keep me 1 Elixir ahead, and stop any damage to my tower, but instead I decided to spend 3 Elixir on the bomber, keeping me at a 2 Elixir advantage and setting me up for a potential counter push. I ended up taking about 400 damage to my tower and the bomber dying, but it was worth a try. Here comes the next big mistake. He places the giant on the bridge with only 6 Elixir in his hand. Now if he was at a big advantage, he maybe could have pulled this off, but he wasn't. You should never really play a giant or any structure targeting troop alone unless you know the opponent has no counters. You're just throwing Elixir away. Sure, you might get a little damage onto my tower, but look what happens when I counter it. I put down 10 Elixir worth of troops and they all take down the giant without taking any damage from the support troops because there simply aren't any. He manages to take it out with my mini-P.E.K.K.A before it reaches the tower, but if he had just waited until he had enough Elixir to play the giant and minions together, they would have got a lot more damage off onto my troops before dying. You should rarely play troops alone. His giant only got 1 hit onto my tower anyway, that's 5 Elixir wasted on 150 damage to my tower. Alright, so we're slowly getting his tower down, it's got 300 left, we're back at even Elixir in our hands, and with no troops on the field, we both just wait out till 10. He actually plays the right troop first, but he probably should have started it further back, so that he could get some supporting troops to go along with it. I spend 7 Elixir putting supporting troops down to take out the Valkyrie, and a further 5 on the giant to distract the Valkyrie, and keep my other troops out of harm's way. Now it's probably worth knowing that spending 12 Elixir on one push can be risky, and if I was against a hog deck, I'd probably never have done this, because he could have just rushed a push down the other side, so always think about what kind of deck you're playing. He's currently got an 8 Elixir in-hand advantage, and if he played it right, I'm sure he could have cancelled out my push, but instead he just puts down the mini-P.E.K.K.A at the bridge, within range of my supportive troops. I spend a further 2 Elixir on goblins to take out the mini-P.E.K.K.A before it kills my giant. Now he's panicking and just throws down the witch on top of my goblins, which quickly gets destroyed. After that costly mistake, he's down to only a 1 Elixir in-hand advantage, while I have a 14 Elixir push running his tower. Eventually I went up to 3 crown the game by using my advantage and continuing to pressure my opponent into misplaying. So I made this video because I really want people to think about how they're using their Elixir. Could you have defended by spending less? Did you need to send in those goblins for extra damage, or could you have kept them for his prince counter push? It's always useful to keep at least 3 Elixir in your hand while pushing, in case of a counter push. Think about every card before you play it, and work out what's best for the current situation. Whilst picking the right troops to play is a good way to gain an Elixir advantage, troop placement is arguably a bigger way, and that's what I'm going to be talking about in my next video. Bye for now.